When she introduced me as her roommate, I thought I misheard her. It was at her coworker's birthday party. One of those rooftop events with fairy lights strung across railings, shallow conversations floating through the air, and overpriced cocktails served in mason jars. I'd shown up in a button-down she picked out for me, carrying a bottle of wine she said was her favorite. I was proud to be by her side. But when we got there and someone asked who I was, she laughed and said, "Oh, this is just my roommate, Nathan. Just my roommate." I stood there with that forced smile you wear when your brain hasn't caught up to the insult yet. Like maybe it was a joke. Like maybe she'd wink at me after and whisper, "Kidding, babe." But she didn't. She moved on, arm in arm with her friend, leaving me standing beside the wine table like a forgotten accessory. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't want to cause a scene. That wasn't me. I'd learned to swallow things. I'd gotten good at it, letting things slide, giving the benefit of the doubt, telling myself she loved me in her own way. But something cracked that night. Something I couldn't glue back. We'd been living together for 3 years, dating for 4. When we first moved in, we split rent evenly, until she lost her job. I covered us for months, never once complained. Then she got back on her feet, started earning more than me, and I never asked for payback. I was proud of her. She worked hard. I believed in her even when she didn't believe in herself. And I thought we were building something. A future, a home. I pictured a dog, maybe a garden. I pictured waking up next to her in 10 years, laughing at how broke we were in our 20s. But apparently, she was picturing something else entirely. After the party, I kept it quiet. I didn't want to accuse her in anger. I waited until we were lying in bed, the glow of her phone lighting her face. "Hey," I said gently, "why did you call me your roommate tonight?" She barely looked up. "What do you mean?" "To your friends. You said I was just your roommate." "Oh," she shrugged. "I didn't think it mattered. I don't like mixing personal and professional." "I wasn't asking you to propose," I said, "just to acknowledge me." She locked her phone and turned away. "You're reading too much into it." That was it. Conversation over. Her back was to me, and I stared at the ceiling for hours, trying to decide if I was actually overreacting. Maybe I was. But then again, maybe I wasn't. The next morning, she kissed me on the forehead like nothing had happened and left for work. I stared at the fridge, at the list of bills I'd paid that month. Rent, internet, groceries, her car insurance, which she'd said she'd get me back for. I ran the numbers in my head and came up with a figure that felt like a punch to the chest. That's when the idea first entered my mind. Quiet, rational, almost serene in its arrival. Let her pay rent this month. Just rent. Nothing dramatic. Nothing cruel. Just balance. That evening, I told her I was having some financial trouble. That freelance clients were late with payments. That I might need to pause on rent for a bit. She didn't flinch. "Oh, yeah, I can cover it. Just this month, though?" I nodded. Of course. She didn't ask why, didn't offer to help long-term. Just adjusted the budget spreadsheet on her laptop and kept scrolling through Instagram. I watched her scroll, watched her thumb flick past lives she wished she was living. People at beaches, couples at vineyards, women with designer handbags and the kind of hair that looked expensive. When had I become a liability to her image? 2 weeks passed. The tension didn't boil over, it just simmered. She was colder, shorter with her words, gone more often, and when she was home, it felt like she wasn't really here. Then came the night she went out again. Another party. This one I wasn't invited to. "It's a girls' night," she said, pulling on earrings I bought her last Christmas. "You wouldn't have fun. Do they know I exist?" I asked. She paused, then smiled. "You're being sensitive again." I watched her walk out the door. I stood there, hand still in the air where it almost touched hers. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I stared at the rent statement on my laptop and felt nothing. She came home after midnight, smelling like wine and someone else's cologne. I didn't ask. She didn't offer. A few days later, I got the text, "Hey, can you Venmo me your half of the internet and utilities?" I replied, "Ask your roommate." 10 minutes passed. Then came the call. I let it ring twice before picking up. "Hello," I said. "Nathan, what's going on?" I leaned back in my chair. Calm. I wanted my voice to be the way she made me feel, cool, distant, inconvenient. I said, "Talk to your roommate." There was silence on the line. A breath. Then a sharp exhale like she'd just realized something that had been there all along. "Nathan, don't be petty." I almost laughed. "You're right. I'm being realistic. Another silence. Then the call dropped. That was the first moment I truly realized how invisible I had become in my own relationship. Not angry, not heartbroken, just gone, erased. And maybe that's when I started to erase her, too. One quiet step at a time. The thing about being erased slowly is that it doesn't happen all at once. It's like a fog creeping in, subtle, silent, and cold. You don't even notice until one morning you're standing in your own kitchen and nothing there feels like yours anymore. That morning came about a week after the roommate call. I made coffee like I always did. Her favorite roast, almond milk, a little cinnamon. She walked past me in a rush, heels clacking, purse swinging, barely glancing in my direction. I held out the mug. Coffee. No time, she said, grabbing her keys. Text me if you need anything. Need. That word sat heavy with me for hours. I didn't need anything. That was the problem. I wanted something. Respect, acknowledgement, partnership. But wanting didn't get you anything in this house anymore. That day, I started packing. Not everything. Just small things. Quietly. The watch my dad gave me. The hoodie I wore on our first road trip. The photos from the shoebox under the bed. The ones where she still looked at me like I was someone. I packed them in a suitcase and slid it under the guest bed. Not because I was leaving that day, but because I needed to know I still could. A few nights later, she had friends over, co-workers this time. People I'd never met, never even heard about. I was on the couch, half watching a game, when they walked in laughing, loud and carefree, like this wasn't a shared space but her personal stage. Hey, I said, standing. She glanced at me, then back to them. Oh, that's just my roommate, she said again, smiling like it was a punchline. Laughter followed. Easy, comfortable laughter. Not cruel, but dismissive, the kind that says you don't matter enough to ask about. I left the room. Not angrily. Just done. I sat in the bedroom, door cracked, listening to their voices float through the hallway. They never said my name. Not once. That night, I didn't sleep next to her. I stayed in the guest room, the same one that held my suitcase, waiting patiently like a friend who knows the end of the story before you do. The shift after that was gradual. She stopped asking if I'd eaten, stopped saying goodnight. I stopped trying to catch her eye. Some nights, she didn't come home until late, blaming work or friends or some last-minute event. I didn't question it. What would be the point? When someone's already written you out of their life, demanding a roll back and feels desperate. And I wasn't desperate. I was observing, watching how easily I could be replaced, watching how lightly she walked through life now, unburdened by the man she once claimed to love. One Saturday, she sat across from me at the table, laptop open, spreadsheets glowing. Rent's due Monday, she said, not looking up. I sipped my coffee. I thought I was just your roommate. She paused. Nathan, come on. Roommates split things. You're right. But they also acknowledge each other in public. Seems like I'm more of a ghost. She didn't respond. Just tapped at her keyboard, eyes narrowing. I'll cover it, she said finally. Just pay me back when you can. I nodded. Sure. But I didn't intend to. Not this time. That month, I stopped doing little things. I stopped folding her laundry when it piled up. Stopped stocking her favorite snacks. Stopped reminding her to pay the parking tickets she always forgot. And I waited. Waited for her to notice the imbalance. To feel, even for a second, what it was like to carry the weight alone. She never said anything. Because to her, this was normal now. Me invisible, convenient only when useful. Then came the message. She left her phone unlocked on the coffee table. A text popped up from someone named Leo. Leo, dinner again soon? That Thai place was incredible. Just us this time? I stared at it for a long moment. I didn't open the full thread. I didn't need to. Just us this time. There was always a Leo. There's always someone new when someone old becomes forgettable. I wondered if she told him she had a roommate too. If she laughed when she said it. If he thought he was next in line, when in reality, he was just the next placeholder. I didn't confront her. Instead, I cleaned the apartment from top to bottom. Vacuumed. Did the dishes. Took out the trash. Lit a candle in the living room. Then I grabbed my suitcase from under the guest bed, zipped it slowly, and placed it by the front door. I left a note on the kitchen counter. Rent's covered this month. Should be easy, since it's just you and your roommate now. And I walked out. No screaming. No drama. No final word. Just silence. The same silence she fed me for months. I moved in with a friend for a while. Nothing fancy. Just a spare room and some space to breathe. The first night I slept there, I didn't dream of her. For the first time in years, I didn't dream of anything at all. And it felt like peace. She didn't call right away. That surprised me more than I want to admit. Some part of me thought she'd panic, maybe not out of love, but habit. I figured I'd at least get a "where are you?" or a "we need to talk." But the silence stretched long and still, like a lake frozen overnight. 3 days passed before my phone lit up with her name. I let it ring until the final second, then answered. "Talk to your roommate," I said again, calm as ever. There was a pause. A long one. "Nathan," her voice cracked. "What are you doing?" "Living elsewhere," I said. "Apparently. That's what roommates do when things stop making sense." "I didn't mean to hurt you." She always said that, in fights, in slip-ups, in the aftermath of indifference. "I didn't mean to." But impact doesn't erase itself just because intention gets a free pass. "You didn't have to mean it," I said. "You just had to do it. And you did." She sniffled. "Are you breaking up with me?" That question felt so strange. As if we hadn't already broken down months ago. As if this moment wasn't just the paperwork after the demolition. "No," I said quietly. "We already broke. I'm just choosing not to keep pretending we're whole." Over the next week, I let the silence do the talking. She texted a few times. "Can we talk? I miss you." "This is stupid." I didn't reply. Because sometimes, there's nothing left to say. Nothing that words can glue back together. One afternoon, I came by the apartment while she was at work. I still had my key. I told myself I was just picking up the rest of my things. But the truth was, I wanted to see the place one more time. It looked the same, but it felt different. Colder. Smaller. Like I'd left behind more than furniture. There was a new throw blanket on the couch. A different coffee mug in the sink. Leo's name on a sticky note stuck to the fridge. A wine recommendation, probably. Red pen. Sharp handwriting. I stared at it for a while, then pulled my bag over my shoulder. On the way out, I left my key on the counter, right next to the note I'd left days ago. She could throw it away or frame it. That was her choice now. Weeks passed. People asked what happened. Mutual friends. Co-workers. My sister. I kept it simple. She called me her roommate. Some laughed, thinking I was joking. But the ones who'd been through something similar, who'd felt that slow erasure, who knew the loneliness of being forgotten while still showing up every day, they didn't laugh. They just nodded. Because they understood. I started rebuilding. I got a new place, small, clean mine. I made coffee the way I liked it. Bought new sheets. Slept diagonally across the bed just because I could. I saw a therapist. Opened up in ways I hadn't in years. Not just about her, but about me. The parts one ignored. The boundaries I let blur. The need to feel needed that had slowly replaced the need to be loved. That was the hardest part. Realizing I hadn't just lost her. I'd lost myself trying to keep her. Months later, I ran into one of her friends at a bookstore. She looked surprised to see me, like I was a ghost from a story that no longer made sense. We chatted briefly. Light. Polite. Then she said, "You know, she talks about you. She regrets it. The way she acted." I nodded. "I hope she learns from it." "She thought you'd stay." That line hit harder than it should have. "She thought you'd stay." Of course she did. I always had. I never spoke to her again after that. Never blocked her. Never sent angry messages or dramatic letters. Just moved on. Quietly. Fully. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't fighting to be seen. It's walking away from someone who never looked in the first place. Now and then, I still think about that rooftop party. The fairy lights, the music, the sound of her voice saying, "This is just my roommate." And I realized something important. She was telling the truth. Maybe not the one I wanted to hear, but the one I needed. Because a partner sees you. A partner claims you. A partner doesn't reduce you to a punchline when it's inconvenient to say your name. She told them who I was. So eventually, I believed her.